In the merciless skies of the Pacific, where every day could be your last, legends were born. But few were as flamboyant, as charismatic, and as fierce as Gregory Pappy Boyington, an ace, a rebel, a drinker, a hero. He was the epitome of the bad boy who did the right things in his own way. His squadron, the Black Sheep, became a symbol of fearlessness and audacity. Yet behind the brilliance of his exploits lay a complex, sometimes tragic personality. Today, we will tell the story of a man who lived on the edge, flew on the edge, and became an immortal myth. Gregory Boyington was born on December 4th, 1912, in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, but largely grew up in Tacoma, Washington. From a young age, an untamed energy and an almost reckless, adventurous spirit simmered within him. He was undeniably talented, especially in athletics, but equally restless and defiant. He attended the University of Washington, where he excelled at wrestling, becoming a Pacific Coast Conference champion. It was also during his time at university that he participated in the Reserve Officers Training Corps, known as ROTC. It was there he first encountered military discipline, a concept which, as it turned out, he never found easy to fully embrace or adhere to. His path to a career in aviation was circuitous and marked by early challenges. He initially joined the Army Air Corps Flying School, but didn't last long, finding the strictures and formality incompatible with his independent nature. A deeper craving for a more rigorous and perhaps less constrained military service led him to the U.S. Marine Corps. In 1937, after extensive training, he proudly earned his Marine wings, officially becoming a full-fledged military aviator. Young, daring, and possessing raw, undeniable talent, he was a natural air warrior, seemingly born for aerial combat. However, his volatile temperament and penchant for rule-breaking already caused significant friction with his superiors. Boyington had a profound dislike for following regulations if he perceived them as pointless or restrictive. He famously enjoyed drinking, engaging in barroom brawls, and cultivating a reputation as a ladies' man, a set of qualities that perfectly fit the romanticized bad boy image, but certainly not that of a perfectly disciplined, ideal officer in the eyes of the Corps. As the ominous clouds of war gathered over the world in the late 1930s, Gregory, with his innate sense for impending conflict, made a momentous decision that would forever alter the trajectory of his life. Driven by a desire for immediate combat and a disdain for what he considered peacetime monotony, he resigned his commission from the Marine Corps. Then he set his sights on the Far East, specifically China, to join the famous Flying Tigers, an elite group of American volunteer pilots who were bravely fighting against the invading Japanese forces under the command of General Claire Lee Chennault. This was his first genuine taste of real war, his first opportunity to truly test his mettle against a formidable enemy. In China, Boyington quickly established himself as an aggressively skilled and utterly fearless pilot. He flew the iconic Curtiss P-40 Tomahawk fighter, and during his tenure with the American Volunteer Group, he is unofficially credited with several aerial victories over Japanese aircraft. However, his deeply ingrained problems with discipline, coupled with his heavy drinking, only intensified amidst the chaos of war. He frequently clashed with his superiors and fellow pilots, making his tenure with the Flying Tigers notoriously turbulent and ultimately short-lived. Officially, he was credited with 3 aerial victories during this period, though Boyington himself, ever the embellisher, claimed a higher number. What was unequivocally important was the invaluable combat experience he gained. lessons learned in the brutal crucible of aerial warfare that would soon serve him well in a new, much larger, and far more critical theater of conflict.
The devastating attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, fundamentally changed everything, igniting America's entry into World War II. Boyington, still in China, understood with stark clarity that his true place was with his home country. He promptly returned to the United States, and after considerable effort and bureaucratic hurdles, he managed to be reinstated into the Marine Corps, albeit with a reduction in rank. His reputation, by this point, was far from pristine, marked by insubordination and excessive drinking. Yet his proven combat experience, a rare commodity in the early days of the war, was too valuable to be entirely dismissed. The burgeoning war in the Pacific was escalating rapidly, and it desperately demanded every qualified and experienced pilot available. Initially, Boyington found himself profoundly frustrated, relegated to the role of training young green pilots at El Toro Marine Corps Air Station in California. He yearned for the immediacy of combat, for the thrill of the fight. And then, in September 1943, his opportunity finally arrived. On Vela La Vela, a relatively small, isolated island in the Solomon Islands chain, a new fighter squadron was in the process of being formed, VMF 214. But this was no ordinary new squadron. It was, in essence, a collection of misfits, pilots without regular assignments, those with disciplinary records, the troublesome and the restless, those whom no other commanding officer wanted to take under their wing. This motley crew, these rejects, proved to be the absolutely perfect team for Pappy Boyington. The pilots assigned to VMF 214 were by and large young, largely inexperienced in actual combat, or simply carried a poor reputation for which they had collectively earned their derisive nickname. But Boyington, with his keen understanding of human nature and potential, saw in them not weakness, but untapped potential and a shared, rebellious spirit. He instinctively knew that these young men needed one crucial thing, a leader who wouldn't preach to them or impose rigid, suffocating discipline, but rather one who would show them, by example, how to win. He became their Pappy, the affectionate, albeit slightly mocking nickname given to him by his men. This moniker stuck, even though he was often only 10 to 15 years older than most of his pilots. It was here, on a forgotten island amidst the vastness of the Pacific, that the legendary Black Sheep were truly born. Boyington made no effort to transform them into perfectly polished gentlemen or by-the-book officers. Instead, he intensely focused on teaching them the brutal realities of aerial combat, how to fly effectively, how to fight fiercely, and, most importantly, how to survive. He instilled in them a mindset of aggression, audacity, and calculated unpredictability. His core commandments were simple and direct. Fly in pairs, attack fiercely, never retreat. He was famously unsparing with his criticism, often harsh and direct, but beneath that gruff exterior, he genuinely cared for every single one of his pilots. The squadron adopted an unusual and striking insignia, a black sheep's head adorned with ram's horns, a potent symbol of their defiant, rebellious spirit, and the fact that they were indeed the black sheep within the larger, more conventional flock of the Marine Corps.
From October 1943, the Black Sheep commenced their legendary and highly effective combat campaign. Operating from their base on Vela La Vela, they relentlessly carried out a variety of missions, daring intercepts of Japanese aircraft, crucial bomber escort duties, and devastating strikes against Japanese bases and supply convoys. In an astonishingly short period of just 84 days, they achieved the incredible. An astounding 247 confirmed aerial victories over the Japanese, while simultaneously incurring a remarkably low number of pilot losses for such intense combat. Pappy Boyington himself rapidly became a celebrated figure, his personal tally of victories steadily climbing, propelling him swiftly towards breaking the legendary record of 26 victories, a mark set by America's World War I ace Eddie Rickenbacker. Boyington primarily flew the Vought F4U Corsair, a truly formidable yet notoriously challenging aircraft to master. In his skilled hands, this powerful fighter was transformed into a deadly and precise weapon. He was a recognized master of hit-and-run tactics, expertly exploiting the Corsair's inherent superiority in speed and its blistering dive capabilities. He meticulously taught his pilots not to engage in prolonged, energy-sapping dogfights with the highly maneuverable Japanese Zeros, which were often superior in turning capability at lower speeds. Instead, he instructed them to utilize the Corsair's raw power for swift, high-speed, and ultimately lethal attacks from superior altitude, using speed to escape before the enemy could react. Every single mission was fraught with immense risk. The Japanese pilots, especially in the early stages of the war, were often highly experienced and notoriously desperate. Their aircraft, though lightly armed and armored, were agile and difficult to hit. But the Black Sheep, under Boyington's uncompromising leadership, were utterly fearless. He consistently led from the front, setting an unparalleled example of personal courage and audacious daring. His pilots frequently witnessed their commander personally engaging multiple adversaries, fearlessly shooting them one by one in chaotic aerial melees. He was to them both their impenetrable shield and their sharpened sword. Boyington was not merely a fearless and aggressive pilot, he was also an exceptionally astute tactician. He possessed a profound understanding of both the enemy psychology and the needs of his own men. He instinctively knew how to ignite and sustain their fighting spirit, how to inspire them to believe implicitly in themselves and in the collective prowess of their squadron. His remarkable exploits quickly became legendary throughout the entire Pacific theater, and Pappy rapidly solidified his status as a living myth. On December 27, 1943, Pappy reached what many believed to be the pinnacle of his combat glory. In a single, intense engagement, he shot down an incredible 4 Japanese aircraft, bringing his personal tally to 25 aerial victories, thereby equaling Rickenbacker's long-standing record. Newswires around the world buzzed with reports of this new American ace. His name was on everyone's lips, synonymous with heroism. But fate, as it often capriciously does, had an even greater and far more harrowing test in store for him.
On January 3, 1944, just a few short days after achieving his celebrated triumph, Pappy Boyington once again led a critical mission to escort bombers to the heavily fortified Japanese base of Rabaul, one of the most strategically important and heavily defended enemy strongholds in the entire Southwest Pacific. High above this formidable citadel, a fierce and desperate aerial battle erupted. In the chaos and intensity of this engagement, Boyington heroically shot down his 26th enemy aircraft, thereby officially breaking Rickenbacker's long-standing record and solidifying his position as America's highest-scoring living ace. However, this flight, this moment of ultimate triumph, would tragically become his very last. In the swirling chaos and extreme peril of the dogfight, while fiercely engaging numerically superior enemy forces, Boyington's F4U Corsair was fatally struck and gravely damaged. He valiantly managed to bail out of his crippled aircraft into the turbulent waters of St. George's Channel. Yet his ordeal was far from over. He was soon spotted and tragically picked up by a patrolling Japanese submarine. Pappy Boyington, the legendary ace of the Marine Corps, the man who seemed invincible, was now a prisoner of war. For his devoted squadron, for the entire Marine Corps, this news was a devastating blow. Initially, no one knew for certain what had truly become of him. He was officially declared missing in action, and then, after an agonizing period of uncertainty, presumed killed in action. His pilots, his beloved Black Sheep, were utterly devastated by the presumed loss. They had not merely lost a commanding officer, they had lost their Pappy, their fearless leader, their surrogate father, their friend. The squadron, though deeply wounded, bravely continued to fight, but without his unique presence and guidance, it was undeniably never quite the same. Boyington's supposed death sent shockwaves through the Allied forces. He was a powerful symbol of American invincibility and daring. His sudden disappearance fueled countless rumors and speculation. No one could truly believe that such a man could simply perish, but the grim reality was far more terrifying than death itself. He had survived the crash, only to fall into the hellish nightmare of Japanese captivity. The ensuing 20 months became an agonizing test of survival for Boyington. He was forced through a succession of brutal prisoner-of-war camps, including the infamous Amori and Ofuna, notorious for their harsh conditions. In these camps he endured unspeakable hardships, cruel and systematic mistreatment, relentless starvation, debilitating diseases, and the constant, gnawing fear of the unknown. As one of the few high-ranking Allied officers captured, attempts were made by the Japanese to exploit him for propaganda purposes, but these efforts proved largely unsuccessful. Boyington, despite the immense physical and psychological torment, remained stubbornly unyielding, his spirit unbroken by the immense deprivations. His harrowing story in captivity constitutes a separate, profound saga of human endurance, resilience, and an indomitable will to live.
In August 1945, following the catastrophic atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Japan finally surrendered, bringing an end to the most destructive conflict in human history. The world collectively breathed a sigh of immense relief and hope for a new era. And then, something utterly incredible and truly miraculous happened. Among the emaciated and traumatized throngs of Allied prisoners of war liberated from Japanese camps was Captain Gregory Boyington. His return from what had been presumed certain death was a global sensation. The man who had been officially declared lost, the national hero, had miraculously returned from the abyss. He was severely emaciated, his weight having plummeted to a mere 99 pounds, a shadow of his former robust self, but he was undeniably alive. He was welcomed back as a true national hero, his miraculous survival a beacon of hope and resilience. The entire country rejoiced and celebrated his astounding return. Soon after his emotional return, he was awarded the highest military decoration in the United States, the Congressional Medal of Honor, presented for his extraordinary heroism and outstanding valor during his command of VMF 214 and for his 26 confirmed aerial victories. In addition, he also received the Navy Cross. He instantly became a living legend, a powerful symbol of American courage, defiance, and unwavering resilience in the face of insurmountable odds. Boyington's miraculous return was undoubtedly one of the most dramatic and celebrated moments of the war's conclusion. He was revered as a hero not only for his astonishing aerial exploits, but also for his incredible, improbable survival in the barbaric conditions of Japanese captivity. He was transformed into a national treasure, a man who had conquered not only a formidable enemy, but also, seemingly, death itself. Following the war, Boyington continued his service in the Marine Corps, but his health, both physical and mental, had been severely compromised by the brutal ordeal of captivity. He became a widely recognized public figure, participating in numerous public speaking engagements, his incredible story inspiring millions across the nation. However, the bright glare of fame, like many things, also had its profound downsides.
Pappy Boyington's post-war life proved to be as complex and turbulent as his wartime experiences. He officially retired from the Marine Corps in 1947, having achieved the well-deserved rank of colonel. Yet, the problems with alcohol, which had subtly plagued him throughout his early life and career, now significantly worsened, exacerbated by the unimaginable traumas he had endured. He grappled profoundly with what we now understand as post-traumatic stress disorder, battling both the lingering demons of war and the overwhelming burden of his own hard-won fame. He channeled some of his experiences into two autobiographical books, the widely acclaimed Black Sheep and the lesser-known Tanya. The first book, Black Sheep, became an immediate bestseller, offering a raw, albeit somewhat embellished account of his wartime exploits. This book later served as the basis for the highly popular 1970s television series, also titled Black Sheep, and known as Black Sheep Squadron in the UK, where his iconic role was famously portrayed by actor Robert Conrad. The television series, while entertaining, significantly romanticized his image and dramatized the events, further cementing his legendary status in popular culture, often blurring the lines between reality and myth. Boyington, both in and out of the cockpit, was an intensely complex and contradictory character. He was undeniably incredibly brave, demonstrating almost suicidal fearlessness in combat, but he was also notoriously impulsive and prone to rash decisions. He was fiercely loyal to his men, inspiring their unwavering devotion, but at the same time, he could be gruff, demanding, and at times self-centered. He was, in essence, a man of profound contrasts. His candid memoirs are not merely a clinical record of combat operations, they are, in many ways, a confessional from a man who battled not only a formidable external enemy, but also his own deeply ingrained personal demons. Gregory Boyington spent the remainder of his life grappling with and attempting to reconcile his tumultuous past, wrestling with the colossal legend he himself had inadvertently created, and struggling with the personal problems that, despite his immense courage, he often found himself unable to fully overcome. He remained a controversial and often enigmatic figure throughout his life, but his unique and indelible place in the history of American aviation, and, more specifically the Marine Corps, is utterly undeniable and securely cemented.
Gregory Pappy Boyington. He is more than just an ace, more than just a recipient of the Medal of Honor. He is an enduring symbol of the unconquerable spirit, an embodiment of audacious fearlessness, and a testament to the raw audacity that has become an integral, and celebrated part of Marine Corps mythology. His incredible story powerfully illustrates that heroes are not always perfect, that they can indeed be the black sheep of the flock. But it is often precisely these complex, unconventional individuals who rise to the occasion and accomplish the most extraordinary and seemingly impossible feats. His legacy and that of his black sheep continues to live on to this very day, their spirit fiercely preserved within the modern VMFA 214 Squadron. He was, ultimately, a man who consistently lived by his own rules, often to his detriment, but crucially, in the most critical moments of war, he always, without fail, did what was necessary, what was heroic, and what brought victory. He was Pappy Boyington, the legendary, hard-drinking, and utterly fearless commander who, in the darkest and most desperate times, inspired his pilots to fly, to fight, and to conquer, forever etching his indelible name into the annals of military history. His remarkable and complex story stands as a powerful reminder that even the most difficult and flawed personalities can, through sheer will and immense courage, rise to become the greatest of heroes.